Jesus, year's gone fast. Maybe not fast enough for some people.
Not in the footy way.
Yeah, so I want to do something a little bit different this week
Sure.
and jump into the VFL first.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so as you know, and as those who follow us on TikTok now know, I had a bit of trouble watching the VFL today on my smart TV.
Mm.
Um, a few varying opinions on what was causing that. Some saying it was my Wi-Fi. Others saying the VFL coverage is garbage.
Yep.
Now, I tried it on multiple devices using the same Wi-Fi, and every other device worked fine, but the smart TV not so much.
I
So,
usually watch it on my PC, but I have a wired Ethernet connection, and it is an extremely fast connection because I pay a lot of money for it,
yep,
and it's just crappy VFL, mate. I have no issues with anything else, streaming anything else, downloading things at high speed, gaming. Nothing ever gives me any issues except for watching the VFL.
yeah. Well, my Wi-Fi now, I don't have NBN or whatever, but I've got what's they call a super fast cable, so I'll
Mm.
take their word for it. I pay a bit of money for it. I live probably about 1 kilometre from the I don't know what they call it, the place where
The
they
exchange.
the exchange or the place where their head office and all their big satellite dishes and everything are.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, like it's the next suburb away from where I live. So
Yep.
I've got a good connection. I have no problems with KO. Very rarely have a problem with KO, to be honest. I'm not going to say none, but sometimes. But
Mm.
yeah. So, but the VFL is just terrible.
I just did a little speed test on my home internet.
Yep.
So I'm at 547 megabits a second, which is extremely fast for Australian internet. It's about as fast as Australian internet gets. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely no issues with my internet. It's definitely VFL.
Yeah, that's right. It's definitely that. And so there's a lot of buffering, but look, I managed to sort of scrape through. I had to watch portions of it on a phone, um, because it seemed to go a little bit, like it's still buffered, but it was a lot better on the phone.
Yep.
So I guess the important thing to come out of that is we won.
Yeah. So
And
I didn't actually watch the game at all, just so clarification, but I did just check out the stats and the score.
yeah, so it was a cracker of a game, um, especially if you're a Southport supporter and you were watching the VFL stream because the commentators must have been the guys who generally do the streaming for Southport because they seem to know a lot about their players and seem to be very excited when they did anything.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was kind of like watching the AFL with some of the Victorian commentators commentating against non-Victorian teams, shall I say?
Yeah.
But look, that those two things were the downside: the coverage and the commentators. Everything else, look, um, we won. It was a cracker of a game. We had, off the top of my head, 10 goal kickers,
Wow. That's
including
pretty good.
a young fellow by the name of Ben Thomas, who I don't know a lot about. He kicked 3 goals.
Yeah, I just had a look at that then. I just looked for our bit highest goal scorer. So Ben Thomas,
Yeah.
an academy
So
product, I think, isn't
yeah, we had Jack Manley the week before kicked, I think, 3 goals as well. So these young boys that are coming through the academy system or just VFL listed are really pulling their weight, doing a great job. And yeah, there's obviously some potential to maybe as you mentioned to me recently, we have a couple of spots in the potentially have a couple of spots in the mid-season draft.
he? Yeah.
There could be some maybe some recruiting done through our academy or through some quaffle players who are playing as supplementary guys for our reserves as well.
Yeah, well, we put two players on our long-term injury list at the start of the season, so we
Yeah,
should have the ability to recruit two people at the mid-season draft. If the club does it, I'm not sure, but we have the ability to get two new guys in.
yeah, it's not something we've really done much of. We got Kalen Lane a few years ago.
Hmm.
That would have been the first year I think they had it. Um, Off the top of my head,
Yeah, I think that was the only time. Oh, didn't we get that? We had that VFL guy for 1 year.
Mitch Cox we got
That's the one.
pre-season.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we picked him
league.
up as a COVID top up player. I think that's what it was. Well, either way, he was like just one of those supplementary sort of players we picked up just prior to the season starting.
Yep.
A couple of seasons ago, ex-Frankston and Williamstown VFL player.
Yep.
Very good footballer who perhaps probably could have got a bit more of an opportunity than what he did, but that's football.
That's exactly right.
Yep. So just from what I was able to see from the game, Bruce Revel looked really good. 24 disposals that were all pretty effective within reason. 5 clearances, and obviously he wasn't the main in and under guy at the centre bounces. Jared Lyons was that guy. Lyons sort of turned in a bit of a plus minus sort of game. It was not a high disposal game. It was he did Jared Lyons things. He just did what he does. Got the ball, got a bit of it. A lot of clearances. I think it was about 9 clearances, but in my opinion, didn't have a great influence on the result.
Yep.
Harry Sharp was good. Got a fair bit of the ball, kicked a couple of goals. I think if there's a place available in the team, the AFL team for next week, he potentially comes in, depending on what role needs to be filled.
Yep.
Could come in for Calamachi. I have no issue with that. I think they play pretty similar roles. Basically both wingmen. I know Archie's been playing a bit more as a half forward, but horses for courses in that instance, I think.
Yeah, I've just realised how many ex-Suns are littered throughout Southport Sharks list.
Yeah, and Boyd Woodcock, ex-Port Adelaide as well, played and kicked at least 1 goal today.
And he got 2 here and 20 disposals, so not a bad game for him.
And I think Braden Crossley is an ex-Sun.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
in fact, I think he
had a scandal.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Look, it's on a public record. If you want to know what he got in trouble for, look it up on Google.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he's mended his ways and become more mature after that incident. So,
and he's not the only one. Wasn't the first, and he won't be the last.
Hell no. I think Gold Coast fans are hoping the last for their club because they've had a pretty rotten run with it in their early years.
In their very short club history.
Yeah, more so in the early years. I think in the last couple they've tightened up a bit on that sort of stuff that we know of. But
yeah,
as we now know through happenings at the Melbourne Football Club in particular, and look, it could be other clubs, but they're the ones that have been in the news for it, that not everything that happens in clubland is on the public record.
No, that's true.
In the, I guess, in the illicit drugs department anyway. Yeah, if you can call it the department, but you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, look, Logan Morris kicked a couple of goals as well today for us. He sort of didn't really get a hell of a lot of the ball, but I guess he did okay with it. I didn't think it was an outstanding game. The supporters on social media and a few guys that were messaging me during the game and straight afterwards were like, "Oh, look, this guy's done heaps today. Get him in." As you know, I was a bit up and about after seeing him play live in the first game of the season.
Yeah, he had his first 3 games were pretty electric.
Yeah. I, now having seen a bit more of a body of work, I don't think he's AFL ready yet. That's not to say he won't be because he's pretty close.
Oh, no, he's still very young.
Yeah. He's still, I think out of the guys, the young guys, or I guess the new recruits, Bruce Revel's closest to a debut for mine.
Okay.
I just think he's obviously a little bit older and a bit more mature than the guys who we drafted from the under-18 systems.
Yeah, but where would you chuck him in? Because it's a bit of a Mr. Fix-It, isn't he? He's not really a specific position player. He's
the old Al Baldwin from Tool Time. He'll Home Improvement, whatever that bloody show was called. Yeah, that's the one. Look, he obviously plays sort of as a mid. He plays as a wing. Can play half forward, half back. I think I've seen him play at other times as well.
Yeah, he's a bit of an Archie kind of player.
Bingo. So look, they could look at it and say, well, yeah, look, we could bring in Sharp, but maybe we'll try something different and bring in Revel to replace Archie, who prior to getting injured on Thursday night wasn't really having a great game.
No, I mean, and we've talked for weeks about appreciating the work that Archie's done and all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff, and he's been a bit underrated, but he has been quiet for well, certainly last week. Well, I shouldn't say last week, the Thursday game, and then the week before that as well. He was a bit quiet
yeah,
compared to his usual efforts.
yeah. The week before, he was pretty unlucky with a few things that didn't quite go his way. But yeah, so I think maybe Revel, if we are going to debut someone, he might be the guy.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, to be
But
honest.
I honestly wouldn't have a problem with Sharp coming in for Archie,
Yeah,
which could guess maybe get Berry into a different role, more of an inside role. Sharp can come up to a wing,
yeah, I
and
don't mind that at all.
yeah, because I mean that's sort of where he plays. He's got elite endurance, and his speed is really good as well. And another
Yeah,
guy,
a bit of question mark on his handling. Sometimes he's a bit green with his usage of the ball.
yeah, but look,
He's sharpened that up a bit in recent times, but
yeah, nice
he,
wordplay there.
yeah, it literally was the first word that came to mind. But yeah, look, I wouldn't mind giving him a go. I don't think he's played this season yet, has he?
No, he hasn't. I think he was in a one or two squads of 24 or 5, whatever they announce
Yeah,
when we've got like a later game.
yeah, I think he's been the
Um,
emergency a couple of times. But
yeah, that's right. So yeah, another guy I thought did pretty well for himself. I guess he had that main ruck role was Henry Smith.
yeah, good.
Like I think he's starting to really come into his game now.
Yeah, it says he got a goal here as well.
Yeah, that's right. And look, his goal kicking has been a bit of an issue for him at times, but
Yeah, I think he was one goal, four behinds last week or the week before.
yeah, I think it was a week before maybe. But I
Yeah,
mean, look, that's a Brisbane Lions problem. It has been as much as people like to think our three-peat team was amazing. They were, but
Hmm.
they also had a lot of problems kicking for goal at times as well. It
Yeah,
just
that's true.
seems to be a club thing, and um, yeah, I can't really. I'm not going to sit here and pass judgment on any one particular guy and say, well, Henry Smith's goal kicking is no good because he's not the only guy in our club that has troubles. But yeah,
No,
look,
definitely not.
I thought from what I saw he played well. Kalen Lane must seem to have a bit more of a run in the ruck. Obviously, with Darcy Ford out of the team, the two young boys had a bit more of a free reign to play in the ruck, and Kalen Lane got a fair few hit outs, did pretty well for himself. But I thought Smith was the guy that showed more. If for any God forgiven reason we maybe God forsaken reason is the word I'm looking for.
Hmm.
Big O can't play. I would go with what you and a few other people said a week ago and say, well, let's get Henry Smith in.
Yep.
I think he's pretty close to being ready, if not now. And Shadow Brain and Jackson Pryor was sort of okay without being brilliant.
Yep.
They just did what they seem to do every week. They just did their job. It was kind of weird too, the way the teams were named. Like, I think they had someone smaller was named a fullback, and Dara Joyce was named in a forward pocket. And I was looking at the team going, well, that's not going to line up like that.
Yeah,
But yeah, so
playing
Jimmy,
tricky buggers.
yeah, I mean, that's what team clubs do. It's just the way it is. I thought Jimmy Tunstall was down on his output.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't great. He wasn't bad. He just
He
did.
also did play partial AFL game though. So
Yeah, which is where I was going to go with that. Like, I know Kai Lohman had that big game a few weeks ago after playing a little bit of AFL, but
mm,
you sort of got to wonder how much it takes out of him as well, especially because he's gone down to play in Canberra. He's done all the travelling, done the captain's run if they did one, and done all the things that the AFL team's done. Then he's had to go back to Brisbane and play a full game. So
so he played a full VFL game, Tunstall?
I don't know if it was a full game because you never
Because
can tell.
That would have been 6 quarters of footy.
Yeah, you never. You look,
Games.
you can never tell with the VFL or anything because you don't see how often, particularly in the VFL, you don't see the bench rotations on TV.
Yeah, That's right.
Yeah, and that's sort of my takeaways from that. Obviously, as I said, we won another close-ish sort of game. We seem to be having a few of those this season, and yeah, I obviously I can't really sort of bring too much more to the table due to the quality of the coverage, but yeah, it's good to get on the winners board. And I feel as though they had a win. They played their hearts out. They deserved to get a bit more of a mention before the AFL stuff sort of kicks in for us.
Yeah, well, I have one more question just before we move on from the VFL.
Yeah,
So someone who used to be on our list, who used to be on Geelong's list, is Wiley Buzzer. So he's playing for
yes,
Southport now.
that's right.
It says here that he only got 8 disposals for the game. Did he get injured or did he just have a bad game?
No, I just don't know, to be honest.
Yeah,
I wasn't really paying too much attention to anyone who wasn't playing for us.
true. True, but you didn't like catch
Um,
any notice of any injured players in the other team or anything like that?
Nah, look, I can't recall any mention of it. Actually, I
That's
just
right.
want to say so Taj Aberley was up in the ranking points reason in our top 5.
Yeah.
Kicked a goal. And he's kind of a guy that's been forgotten a little bit as well. Obviously part of the power couple with Lily Postlethwaite.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he was 5th in our ranking points, got a goal.
He's always
16,
around the mark in the VFL team.
yeah, 16 disposals. Hadn't really heard much sort of being mentioned of him recently, but yeah, he had an okay game today.
Well,
And actually, just looking at the clearances too, Henry Smith got 5 clearances to go with his 16 hitouts.
yeah, he did not have a bad game at all.
Yeah, so he's done really well for himself. And yeah, like Joel Buderick sort of was doing okay as well. He got a bit of top 5 in disposals for us.
Yep.
But obviously, he's not an AFL prospect just yet.
Yeah.
That may be something that could change.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that wraps up our chat about the VFL game against Southport on the weekend. Unfortunately, as explained during this episode, the coverage of the VFL is a disgrace and needs a lot of work. I don't know what the solution is other than getting it back on KO or 7 Mate, where it's been previously on both. And either AFL, if you're listening, do something about it. Look after the fans. We don't even get to go to the reserves games as curtain raisers anymore, which we used to love back in the days. Get the coverage improved. Forget it, even just, I don't know, come up with something, but don't make us watch it on our phones. That's just dumb. And it's not going to win you any fans. It's not going to win you any ratings. It's not going to get people watching, and it's not going to get people supporting their VFL teams, which is vital, especially for the standalone teams such as Southport in Queensland and the teams down in Victoria as well, and with the Tassie team coming along soon as well. So, yeah, get your act together, AFL, and yep, that's up for that. And just keep a listen out for our listeners. We will have the AFL wrap coming in the next 24 hours as well. We have recorded that, and it's on its way. I just thought the VFL boys deserved a bit of clear air because they had a win and played really well. And also, keep watching our TikTok. We Are the Pride on TikTok. We have got some little snippets and outtakes coming up as well, including one that I pulled out of this episode to put on there as instead on its own. So, yep, keep listening and have a good one. Cheers.